Sound test, sound test. Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to my kitchen. La la la. Well, hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm really happy to see you. How are you doing? So, for those who are new here, my name is Gita Lighthouse. I moved to Norway 1.5, a little bit more years ago. I do a lot of research about things that many people do not really know about Norway. So, if that's your case or if you're just simply curious like I am, welcome. So you all know that besides Norwegian sweaters, another very popular souvenir that you can bring back home from visiting Norway is handmade wood carvings or wood like figures and stuff made from wood. If you don't know, you must probably know because I haven't shared that on my channel, you have now the exclusive chance to know that. I work in a souvenir shop in Norway, in Bergen, in one of those old historical houses. So if you are in Bergen, pop in, let's have a chat. So I work there and we have all of these like wooden figures, handmade wood carvings. And one of the figures is a girl in I think it's a national costume, and she's playing a flute. And somehow I just randomly asked one of my bosses, does this girl have some kind of meaning, or is it just like a random girl in national costume with a flute? And my boss said that the name of it is prillarguri, and there is a story behind it that's kind of Norwegian folklore. Of course, when I came home, the first thing that I did was Google it. All right, in order to understand what is what, we have to start from the beginning. And this means we have to go back in the time machine to the time of around 1612. And the location is a place in Norway called Sel. It is located in the inland, in the traditional district of, I beg your pardon for pronunciation, Gudbrandsdal. And so it was the beginning of 17th century. And that was the time when Sweden was in war with, at that time called, Denmark, Norway. It was also the time of Kalmar War, which lasted from 1611 up to 1613. I will not go into details. If you want to know more the history of that, you can Google or read different sources. At one point, nearly 300 Norwegian armed soldiers from Gudbrand were killed by Swedes, and they marched through the territory and did more damage. So the anger of Norwegians was pretty high at that moment. At one point, Swedes decided to complete their army with Scottish mercenary soldiers, basically soldiers who were paid for participating in a war. So they arrived and were on their way to join Swedes. However, they were forced to stop at Otta, and an event called the Battle of Kringen took place. And at that place, at that moment, around 500 very brave peasants created their own army, and they were ready to face Swedes and stop them from conquering their land. The thing about this place, Kringen, is that it is the most narrowest place in the valley, which was a perfect place for this peasant army to create an ambush. The enemies were beaten by a Norwegian peasant army in a way that certainly can be called a massacre. So heroic, what a story. And it's actually a part of Norwegian history. But where's the girl, you might ask? Well, good that you asked. So here comes the girl. According to the legend, this girl actually contributed a lot to this victory that I told you before. The girl's name was Guri, and it's a Norwegian female name that originates in Old Norse. But as I mentioned at the beginning of my YouTube video, the figure is actually called prillarguri. So we know that Guri is the girl's name, but what is the prillar thing? So prillar actually is an instrument. Yes, so that's the flute that I was mentioning before when I was describing the wooden figure. There is an old instrument in Norway called prillar horn, which is made from a cow horn, and you can actually play on it, obviously. And apparently, because this horn and also the girl both together made a lot of sense in this story, in this legend, they made this legend about prillarguri, putting both of these things together. The girl named Guri, the Norwegian girl, she actually hid in a high place in the Kringen, in the valley on the other side of the lake. So since she was above, very high. She could see everything from above very well. Therefore, she could give some sign to the Norwegian peasant army that the enemies are approaching. Today, the place is called Pillarguri, and it's 852 meters high. All right, so we know that she gave a sign to Norwegian army that the enemy is approaching, but the way how she did it actually is not very well known, if I can say like that. So there are two options circulating in folklore. The first one was that she noticed that the enemy is coming and she started to play melody on her flute to distract the enemies to another direction. And also she took off some kind of piece of clothing and signaled Norwegians that they are coming so that they can attack them unprepared because they were distracted. The second story is quite simple. She was playing the melody just to tell the Norwegians that they are coming, like a warning, so that they can prepare. So both of these options are possible, although I believe that the second one is more easier and not so complicated, and I think that could be the thing if it actually happened. But I said if it really happened, it's a folklore. We should also kind of understand that this might not have happened as much as we want to believe it. And I want to believe it. Why am I saying this? Because, you know, as I mentioned before, the battle really took place. It happened, it's a part of history. Although there are none, like zero historical documents really mentioning this girl and this action that she did, this bravery that she did in order to help the Norwegian army. The fact is that actually her name first time appears in different oral stories and also in some written lyrics that appeared only 200 years after this battle actually took place. However, another thing that I should mention is that females were very seldomly actually mentioned in historical documents at that time. So maybe that could also be the case why we didn't know about her earlier, or she wasn't mentioned in the documents of that time. And so maybe the people knew the story, they wanted the story to be alive so that people honor her bravery, and they just forwarded the story from one generation to another so that it survives, even though it's not documented, if you know what I mean. And I guess it's up for you and me or anyone who knows the story to decide whether you believe that it happened for real, the girl existed and she's saved, or whether that was just an invention. But whatever the story, it's a story about bravery. And at this point, I just have to ask, what do you think? Do you believe that it actually happened? The one thing that I'm just like processing in my mind is I would really love to know if she was real, this Guri girl. I would really love to know what happened to her after this battle ended. I mean, did she survive? Was she killed? Because it's actually a battle and it's war, anything can happen. I mean, I'm just really curious about that. The story of pillarguri actually became very popularized in different songs and lyrics, and there's even a traditional song that originates from the area where she kind of lived. In modern illustrations, pillarguri is depicted as a young Norwegian girl having a long fair hair, and she's playing a lure. That's actually traditional, historical Scandinavian instrument. As I mentioned before, there are no documents describing how this girl looked, so I guess they just went for the most safest way how to describe this girl, because like the average Norwegian girl is presumed to have like blonde hair, blue eyes, and that's like the traditional image of Norwegian girl, so this is, I guess, why they are depicting her in that way. There is also a statue placed in HELPED, Norway that depicts pillarguri. She was also reproduced on memorial that was revealed in 1912 in honor of 300-year anniversary of the battle. Pillarguri is also depicted on the municipal coat of arms of Sel in Oppland County, Norway. In Otta, they actually also have a Pillarguri festival and Pillarguri prize, and according to the statutes, the prize is awarded to a woman who, by virtue of her courage and work, is a role model for the rest of us. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, that maybe she wasn't real, however, they're using this story to inspire people to make her as an example for the people nowadays. Yeah, just imagine, let's say you go into Norway, you want to buy a souvenir for your female friend, and buying this kind of statue with pillarguri and knowing all of the story that you could tell the woman or girl to whom you are presenting this figure. I mean, that will mean a lot to the person receiving the present. And also, like, if you're in Norway just buying some presents, looking at this figure, you will know the story and maybe you will buy it because it has a lot of meaning in it. Anyways, my friends, this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. I've been mentioned in some comments under my video saying that I'm very good at storytelling. I mean, it's a huge compliment since English is not my native language, although I feel like I'm quite good at it. Yeah, so let me know in comments, how did you like the story? What are your thoughts? Press those likes, subscribe to the channel, recommend your friends to watch my channel, share this video. So yeah, have a good day and see you next time!